Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Hello and welcome in, friends, to another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. I hope each and every one of you is being safe and sound. It is Thursday, November 12th, 2020 in the NFL, which means it is time to get ready for another edition of Confidence Picks as we get ready for Week 10 in the National Football League here on Sports from Your Couch. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you so much. Everybody, please make sure you guys are up to date on everything we're doing on the network. Before we get to our picks, let's go ahead and take care of that housekeeping notes. I am on Twitter at Mike M Media. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. And of course, the show is on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcasts at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the show at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. Teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. And if you would like to keep up to date with everything we're doing on the podcast network, from the true crime show to the pop culture show and our interviews, follow us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. And before we go ahead and get into the picks, we want to make a quick programming note. Normally, you would hear us as we're doing our confidence picks. We will go ahead and pick them and then decide where we want to put them. But on today's episode, we are doing things a little bit differently. I actually already made the confidence picks that I want for this week. And I am just going to tell you the confidence points I put on them, the pick I made, and why I made said pick. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with my 14 confidence points, the highest confidence I have this week. I have the Green Bay Packers beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, if Green Bay keeps going the way they are with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, if Aaron Jones is healthy, this is the best offense, I think, in the NFC, right there along with the Seattle Seahawks. Would have been interesting had they put a deal together for Will Fuller with Houston, but couldn't get that pulled off during the trade deadline. This is a team that puts up a lot of points. Their defense is okay. They did go through some COVID scares, but I don't think Jacksonville is going to be the team that stops them. Jacksonville trying to get Trevor Lawrence. Jacksonville, some nice pieces, but that's all you can really say about that team. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers beating Jacksonville, and I'm putting 14 confidence points on them. I have the Baltimore Ravens beating the New England Patriots with 13 confidence points in this matchup. For Baltimore, all I really want to see is, can Lamar Jackson show us MVP numbers? Obviously, he's not going to be the MVP this season, but there's been a lot of ups and downs with this offense, and I want to see more from Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, and we haven't. This running game is going between Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and Mark Ingram, who will be back this week. Dez Bryant is now on this offense. You got Willie Snead. I need to see more from Baltimore. They're winning their games, and maybe that's a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're just winning a lot of games, and they're not really close, so they don't have to be on all this firepower. But even against somebody like Pittsburgh, I saw Lamar Jackson put that ball on the turf a bunch of times. So this is a matchup that they should be able to just dominate New England. New England might be the worst position by position, skill by skill team in the NFL. And if Cam Newton is playing well, if he's healthy, he's definitely a difference maker. And I had more expectations for him. And look, I keep saying this, especially as Bears fans. I think Cam Newton was still the right choice for the Bears to make instead of Nick Foles. Whether or not it's working off in New England, that doesn't make a difference to me. That's its own scenario. It's the fact that they didn't look anybody. That's, again, I'm not going to just get into this tirade about the Chicago Bears, but I'm going to go with Baltimore in this matchup. They're better than New England. It's weird seeing New England this bad, but also I trust Bill Belichick in the long run. So I think there is some type of madness to it, and they're going to have money. They're going to make a move. So I'll go with Baltimore, obviously, in this matchup, but New England won't stay bad for that long. With 12 confidence points, I have the New Orleans Saints beating the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, it just comes down to New Orleans coming off of that huge win against Tampa Bay. I don't think New Orleans is a team that's unbeatable, unstoppable, that they're going to go all the way to the Super Bowl. They're a team that can be had in the NFC. But if they're rolling, if they have a healthy Michael Thomas, I was going to say happy, but regardless, if they just have an available Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jared Cook, a good offensive line, a defense that can keep you in a game at points, and Drew Brees, who isn't Drew Brees of old, but is still a top-tier quarterback, they're a good team. The problem is there's been a lot of inconsistency with the New Orleans Saints, and that could be said about every team in the NFL. But I don't think in the Superdome they're going to lose to San Francisco, who's just trying to get through this damn season. They don't know what's going on at quarterback. They don't have their best player in George Kittle. They can't keep a running back healthy. And it's exactly what I've been saying all season long. It's what I said during the offseason. One of the worst and toughest things in the NFL is coming up short in the Super Bowl. Not just because you lost in said Super Bowl, but because coming back the next season is so hard to try to win it, to try to stay healthy, to get all the same breaks you did. And that's what happened to San Francisco. So I'm going with the Saints in that matchup. With the 11 confidence points on Thursday Night Football, I have the Titans over the Colts. This one is a simple Derrick Henry versus the Indianapolis defense. I think Derrick Henry is one of the better running backs in the NFL. Breaking news, everybody thinks that. But there is a level to this. There's certain guys who can break a defense, that can break the mold, that can just cause so much havoc that it doesn't matter if a defense game plans for them. Tennessee has good wide receivers from Corey Davis, A.J. Brown. Maybe not world beaters, but they're guys that are, comparable in the NFL to really good, good players that help teams that don't have a Julio Jones. These are the kind of guys you need. If you don't have a Calvin Ridley, if you don't have a Tyler Boyd, if you don't have any of these guys, a Steph Diggs, that Tennessee has guys that are coaching to Mike Vrabel that they utilize them. They get the most out of them is kind of where I'm trying to tread to. And that's what Tennessee does. And on the other end, in this matchup, you have Indianapolis with an older quarterback who they're having a hard time with their running game. They're losing Jonathan Taylor. They don't have the best wide receiver group. This is a team that should be better than they are. We should be more ecstatic about Indianapolis. But it's the uncertainty of the Lone Ranger, the old sheriff that is Phillip Rivers. That's why I went with Tennessee in this matchup. And I like Mike Vrabel. I think he's one of the more underrated coaches in the NFL. With 10 confidence points, I have the Browns beating the Texans. You talk about a game that both teams need. And it's interesting because the Texans don't have a good record. And Cleveland should be beating teams that don't have good records like this, right? But we expect a lot from the Texans, who just fired their PR lady who's beloved among the league and media. So that whole franchise is in dysfunction, But, let's go on to the field. Cleveland has more talent even without Odell Beckham. And they're getting back Nick Chubb. So really it's contain Will Fuller and keep Deshaun Watson under pressure. And you win that game. Because David Johnson's not going to play. Duke Johnson isn't going to take over a game. You're in Cleveland. No, this is a game where Houston needs to win. They're not going to, I don't believe. But they need to win it. And this is a game Cleveland should win. And they need to win as well. Because if they lose this game, you talk about the narrative and the spin and the headache that will come for them for the next 7 days. So expect Cleveland to win this matchup. With 9 confidence points, I have the Eagles beating the Giants. Somebody needs to win this division. Somebody does. And Philly's getting back Miles Sanders. So, and Alshon Jeffrey. So I guess I'll go with Philadelphia in this matchup. Just for fantasy purpose, I have Wayne Gellman goes off. So go with the Eagles winning in this horrible, horrible NFC East matchup. With 8 confidence points, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Carolina Panthers. And Christian McCaffrey, fantasy football owners, I am sorry. It keeps getting bad and it just won't get better. I am right there with you. It sucks, but he will be back, it looks like, for week 11. With that, Mike Davis, Curtis Samuel, we'll see how they bounce back with a Teddy Bridgewater against Tampa Bay, who was embarrassed on Sunday Night Football. So I don't expect Tom Brady, Bruce Arians, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate to get shut down to only 3 points again. I don't see that. I don't think anybody expects the Saints to do that to Tampa Bay the way they did. Now, they did beat Tampa Bay already once in the season. In a much closer game, I guess you can say, at least score-wise. So Tampa Bay is going to bounce back. They're going to come out and they're going to try to put points on the board. The real thing is Carolina has stuck around with teams from Kansas City on. So while I'm picking Tampa Bay, don't disrespect Carolina. Carolina can completely take Tampa Bay out of its game and win. They have a coach that has kept them and schemed for them and has put them in positions to win. So I really like Carolina moving forward, and I wish Christian McCaffrey was playing in this game. But I'm going to go with Tampa Bay just because of the bounce back. But if Tampa Bay drops this game, I mean, it completely, really just, it goes to show the toss-up that is the NFC this season and how deep the conference is. With 7 confidence points, I have Pittsburgh over Cincinnati. I might actually jump that one up a little bit later on in the week, depending what goes on with Ben Roethlisberger and the injuries, the COVID list, and whatnot. But again, Joe Burrow is going to be a star in Cincinnati. We all know that. It depends on if they can build around him. They definitely have a legitimate shot of having a really good 10-year quarterback. But with Pittsburgh, this is a team that can win the Super Bowl this year. They have all the talent in the wide receiver. They just grow wide receivers out in Pittsburgh. They have good running game. They have a good offensive line. They have a great coach. Pittsburgh could go all the way. They're a team that could beat Kansas City. That is a top-tier defense. This is what Bears fans want when they see that Bears team compared to Pittsburgh. Just enough offense that can put it on when they need to, that can come back if they need to, but a defense that's always in a game. I like Pittsburgh in this matchup. I might even put more confidence points on them, but for right now, I have Pittsburgh over the Bengals. With 6 confidence points, I have Vegas over Denver. You know, this one comes down to, it's a divisional matchup. Denver's playing a lot better than I thought they would be. You know, it's hard to just be overly confident in a divisional rivalry matchup so late already into the year. I like a lot of things that the Vegas Raiders have. I really do. I like Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr. There are pieces there. And it's the same thing with Denver. There's some pieces out there I like. But Vegas is a better team. They have playoff aspirations. So I guess at the end of it, I'm going to go with the Vegas Raiders. But the reason it's so low in my confidence rankings is because of a divisional matchup in the AFC West, which, you know, has a lot of potential when it comes to the quarterbacks, when it comes to the skill positions. It's a really nice division moving forward into the future. With 5 confidence points, I have the Lions over Washington. The Lions need a bounce back. Washington doesn't have a quarterback. They have a great wide receiver, a decent, I wouldn't even say decent, a pretty good running back as well. So I'll go with Detroit in this one. I mean, they're going to win games. They have, if Kenny Golladay plays, I don't know if he's been practicing with that hip. But, I mean, Washington, really, when you lose Kyle Allen the way they did, and then they're playing with Alex Smith, it's just not going good there. And I like Ron Rivera, but this is a rebuilding process that's definitely going to have some growing pains in it. In a fun matchup, I have 4 confidence points on the Bills beating Arizona in Arizona. Josh Allen, when he's good, he's really good. And when he's off, he looks like a young quarterback that makes mistakes. I like their running game. They have really nice wide receivers. That defense is solid. And in Arizona, Kyle Murray can be a superstar in this league, legitimately, like a different level superstar, a Russell Wilson type of superstar. They have great core when it comes to that wide receiver core, especially with DeAndre Hopkins. I think Buffalo has more momentum, is a better coach team right now. This may not be the case if these two teams met in a Super Bowl, which is crazy, but like that can happen. The Cardinals playing Buffalo in a Super Bowl. In a match, I might make a different choice to that matter. But for right now, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I have 3 confidence points on the Seahawks beating the Rams in a NFC West matchup. This one's going to be a lot of fun. Again, really what it comes down to in this matchup, Seattle's defense, not very good, right? But you know where they have been really good at? Is stopping the run. And I don't trust Jared Goff. So Jared Goff needs to outshoot Russell Wilson. And in that matchup, who do you got? And in a stadium where the weather is not going to be any problem, and you just got to scheme around a Ramsey and a Aaron Donald, I like Seattle in this matchup. I put only 3 because you got to have some respect for the Rams coming off of a bye. But again, a divisional matchup. I might put more points on Seattle moving forward, but right now I have the Seahawks beating the Rams, 3 confidence points on that. I have 2 confidence points in the battle of the rookie quarterbacks between the Chargers and Miami. Miami, who would have thunk it, huh? Good on them. Tua, good on him getting a win last week. Justin Herbert, I mean, the boy is good, but the Chargers finding a way to lose that game at the very end, that touchdown not being confirmed. I got the Chargers in the upset going to Miami. This is a fun matchup. I think both these quarterbacks have a legit shot of being really good in the NFL, especially out in LA. Justin Herbert seems to be like the real deal. And I like Tua. So this is going to be a fun game. It's going to be a lot of offense, I think. I think this one is going to be one of those games where we're all going to be like, oh, damn, 35-32, okay. But I'll go with the Chargers and the quote-unquote upset in that matchup. And finally, on Monday Night Football, in an NFC North matchup, it is the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Chicago Bears. Where do we start off with? We did our entire talk about what the Bears did against the Titans and just, it was horrible. We don't need to talk about it. We know how bad it was. Minnesota going off. Dalvin Cook has been a monster the last few weeks. This is simply it. The defense is going to keep Kirk Cousins in check. I mean, that's the one thing I'm confident is this Bears defense will keep Cousins in check. The real thing is, can they isolate Dalvin Cook? Because they haven't been able to really do it with Derrick Henry. They did a little bit, but definitely not against Alvin Kamara. Not against Saquon before he got hurt. Like, they've given up points when it comes and yards when it comes to running backs. And this defense has not just bent, but has broken because they've been on the field so much. Minnesota's defense is horrible. But I'm not going to get fooled into thinking just because the defense isn't good, that this Bears offense all of a sudden is going to figure it out. But with that being said, I think the Bears are going to walk into Soldier Field on Monday Night Football. They're going to maybe give the ball a bunch to David Montgomery if he is out of concussion protocol. They're going to give a bunch of runs to Cordell Patterson. And they're going to dink and dive all day. They're going to try to keep the ball away from Dalvin Cook. This is going to be a boring matchup. And I think the Bears win it. And I think this is the typical game that is a trap for fans to think that they have figured it out. But if you are not careful, you don't need to worry about Adam Thielen. You don't need to worry about Rudolph. You don't need to worry about any of these guys. Dalvin Cook will take care of you. Madison will take care of you. If you keep that team and that defense on that field long enough. We need a big game if you're a Bears fan from Jimmy Graham. Allen Robinson, I expect to eat the lunch out of this defense. You need a big game from Nick Foles. And I think you get Foles golden. I think they win it. I'm only putting 1 confidence points on them right now. That might change later on in the week. But that is it, guys. That is my confidence rundown for Week 10 in the NFL. Let us know, what are your thoughts? How do you think the week will break down? Who are your favorites? Who do you think has a huge week in fantasy football? All of that and more, we will break down the week that was on the next episode of Sports from the Couch. We will also talk about the AO MVP right here from Chicago, the south side of Chicago. Jose Abreu, named your 2020 American League MVP. Shout out to Jose Abreu for a wonderful season on the South Side roster. We'll talk about that on the next episode of Sports from the Couch. But until then, thank you all so much for making us a part of your day. Don't forget, follow me all over social media. I'm on Twitter at MikeMedia, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and be interactive with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, share us, leave a comment wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves is where you become a producer, and you can hear our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities. That's Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag, Teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, YouTube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Play video games with us on Twitch, Twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves. And if you would like to be up to date with everything we're doing on the podcast network, the True Crime Show, the Pop Culture Show, our interviews, everything we're doing, just follow us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Enjoy the games. Take care of yourself. take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.